When a housekeeper walked into Michael Jordan's bedroom on a cold Tuesday morning in October, she was not looking for anything unusual. She had a list of chores, a thermos of coffee, 11 years of experience keeping this house exactly the way it needed to be kept. She was invisible. She was trusted. She was just doing her job. But then she moved a row of hanging shirts to the side in the back of the closet, and she saw something that stopped her completely. A safe, black steel, bolted into the wall behind a panel that had always looked like it was just part of the house. A safe that had been hidden there for so long that the tape across the front had started to yellow at the edges. And on that tape, written in heavy black marker, in handwriting she recognized immediately as Michael Jordan's own. 4 words, "Do not open." Ever. She did not open it. She did not touch it. She stood there with her hand pressed flat against her chest and her heart beating loud in that quiet room. And she took one photograph. Then she walked downstairs and finished her shift like nothing had happened. But something had happened. Something that would eventually travel around the world. Something that would make grown men call their fathers. Make daughters dig out old voicemails they had saved for years but never deleted. Make people print out an article and leave it on kitchen tables for their families to read. Because what was inside that safe was not money. It was not a secret scandal. It was not what anyone, not the gossip sites, not the reporters, not the millions of people who would eventually share the story, expected it to be. Inside that safe was a small black cassette tape, and on the front of the safe, hidden underneath the red tape with "Do not open" written on it, pressed down and folded over like someone had changed their mind about leaving it and then left it anyway. 2 more words, in smaller handwriting, in a shakier hand. "Forgive me. Forgive me." Who wrote that? Who was it written to? And what was on that tape that Michael Jordan had locked away and never once listened to in 26 years? And when he finally did listen, when he finally sat alone in that room and heard what was on it, why did he come back downstairs with red eyes and a look on his face like a man who had just set down the heaviest thing he had ever carried? What did that tape say? Whose voice was on it? Oh, and why, when the truth finally came out, did it make the entire world stop? Stay with us, because the answer is not what you think. And when you hear it, all of it from the very beginning, every piece of it, it is going to change the way you think about the people you love and the things you leave behind for them. This is the story of a locked safe, a cassette tape, and a kind of love so large it could not fit into any ordinary conversation. This is where it begins. The safe was real. That is the first thing you need to know. It was not a rumor. It was not something a tabloid made up on a slow news day. It was black steel, bolted into a wall, hidden behind a panel that looked like it had always been part of the house. And on the front of it, in heavy black marker, written on a strip of red tape that had gone yellow at the edges from age, were 4 words that would eventually travel around the world. "Do not open. Ever." The woman who found it was not looking for it. She was not a spy. She was not a reporter. She was not someone with a secret agenda or a phone full of contacts at gossip blogs. She was a housekeeper. She had a thermos of coffee in her bag, a list of tasks on her phone, and a pair of rubber gloves tucked into her uniform pocket. Her name was Celestine Adara, and the morning she found that safe was a Tuesday in late October, cold, gray, ordinary, the kind of morning that gives no warning before it changes your life. Her alarm went off at 4:47 a.m. She hit snooze. She hit it again. Then she sat up in the dark of her small apartment in Highland Park, Illinois. She pressed her feet flat on the cold floor and said a short prayer the way her mother had taught her. Not long, not dramatic. Just a few quiet words to start the day right. "Lord, let me do good work today." She made coffee in a chipped yellow mug. She ironed her gray uniform. She packed her lunch. Leftover jollof rice in a blue Tupperware container, still warm from the night before. Then she drove 22 minutes through streets that had not woken up yet, past orange streetlights humming in the cold, toward a house that most people only ever see in photographs. Celestine had worked for the Jordan estate for 11 years. She started at 34, fresh out of a hard divorce, 2 kids at home, a bank account that made her stomach hurt when she checked it. A friend of a friend had passed along the name of a staffing agency, and Celestine had shown up to the interview in her best blouse, ironed 3 times, and answered every question honestly and got the job. In 11 years, she had never missed a single shift. Not during the ice storm of 2014, when half the city stayed home, and she drove 40 minutes through roads that shone like mirrors. Not when her son Kwame broke his arm, and she sat with him in the ER until 2 in the morning, got him home, got him settled, and still clocked in at 7. Not even the week her mother passed away. Though that week, her hands shook all the time, and her eyes were always just a little too full. She was not simply a housekeeper. She was something harder to name. She understood that her job was not only to clean, it was to make a home feel cared for without anyone having to ask. So to be present in a way that felt warm, even when it was invisible. To know which rooms needed the windows opened and which needed them kept shut. To sense when a space was holding something heavy and to move through it with extra gentleness. In 11 years, she had come to know the Jordan estate the way you know a place you love. Not just the rooms and the routines, but the feeling of it. The way light moved through the east hallway in winter. The particular creak of the 3rd stair. The way the whole house seemed to breathe out at the end of a long week. She knew that Michael Jordan kept a photograph of his father, James, face down in his desk drawer. Not because he was ashamed of it. She understood that too. Sometimes the things we love most are the ones we cannot look at for too long without it costing us something. She knew those things because she paid attention. That was her gift. She paid attention. That Tuesday, she let herself in through the side entrance at 7:15. She punched in the alarm code, 2300, the year and the night of the first championship, the same code it had been for years, and stood for a moment in the mudroom, listening. The house was quiet. Michael was traveling. She had been told he would not be back until Friday. She had a list. Change the linens in the East guest suite, deep clean the kitchen hood vent, polish the glass panels in the trophy room, and the task she had been finding reasons to delay for 3 weeks, organize the master bedroom closet. She climbed the stairs. The master bedroom held the cool, still air of a room that had not been slept in for days. Pale morning light came through the curtains in long gold strips and lay across the floor without moving. The room smelled of cedar, of the cologne Michael wore, something deep and warm that she had never been able to name, but would have recognized anywhere. She went to work. The closet was large. Suits on the left, hung neatly by color. Sneakers along the far wall in clear boxes, each one labeled in black marker on white masking tape. She started at the top and worked down slowly, the way she always did. Careful, thorough. Her hands knew what to do even when her mind was somewhere else. She was halfway through when she moved to the far corner, the one behind the row of hanging dress shirts. She had been in this closet at least 40 times across 11 years. She had never seen the panel before. But there it was, a section of the baseboard trim, probably loosened by the house settling in the autumn cold, gapped open at the bottom just enough to show what was behind it. Black steel, a small keypad, a silver handle, and across the front, in handwriting she knew, she had seen it on birthday cards left for the staff, on notes tucked under vases of flowers, a strip of red masking tape. 4 words, do not open, ever. Celestine did not move for a long moment. She did not reach for the handle. She did not try the keypad. She did not do anything except stand very still, with one hand pressed flat against her chest, feeling her own heartbeat, listening to the house breathe around her. Then she took out her phone. She took one photograph. She carefully pushed the panel back as close to closed as it would go. When she picked up her supplies, she walked downstairs and spent the rest of the day finishing her list. The linens, the kitchen hood, the trophy room glass, doing each task slowly and completely, the way she always did. But the safe stayed with her all that day. Through the drive home, through dinner with her kids, through the quiet of the apartment at night, the television on low, the city outside doing what cities do. 4 words on a piece of red tape. Do not open, ever. She told herself it was not her business. She told herself she would forget it by the weekend. She did not forget. To understand why the safe stayed with her the way it did, why it followed her home, sat beside her at dinner, kept her awake at midnight staring at the ceiling. You have to understand who Celestine Adora was when nobody was watching. Not the woman in the gray uniform. Not the one with the rubber gloves and the thermos and the 11-year record of perfect attendance. The one underneath all of that. She came to America from Lagos, Nigeria, when she was 19 years old. She came with a single brown suitcase held shut with a belt because the zipper had broken the week before she left, and there was no money to replace it. She came with a partial scholarship to a community college in Indiana and a letter from her uncle promising she could sleep on his couch until she found her feet. The scholarship lasted 2 semesters. The couch lasted 8 months. But Celestine kept going. She had learned that from her mother, a small, fierce woman named Nena, who raised 4 children in a 2-room house in Lagos and still managed to iron every school uniform with a coal iron and send each child out the door like they were walking into something important. Because Nena believed they were. She believed the world owed her children something, and she was going to make sure they showed up ready to collect it. Celestine carried that belief like a second heartbeat. She worked as a cashier in a grocery store where the manager mispronounced her name for 2 years, and she corrected him, politely, every single time. She worked nights as a home care aide, sitting with elderly patients who sometimes forgot where they were and sometimes forgot who she was, but who always seemed to relax when she walked into the room. She took classes in the early mornings before her shifts. She got her associate's degree. She moved to Illinois. She met Desmond at a church potluck. He was funny and warm, and he could make her laugh the way very few people ever had. They got married in a small ceremony with 30 people and a cake her aunt made from scratch. They had 2 children. Kwame came first, serious from the beginning, big dark eyes that seemed to be studying everything around him, even as a baby. Then Adana, all fire in motion, the kind of child who seemed to arrive in a room before she actually walked in. When the marriage ended, Celestine did not collapse. She had watched her mother survive harder things. She packed the small pieces of her life into bags and boxes and built something new out of them in an apartment in Highland Park that was too small and too cold in the winter and hers. Completely hers. She got the job at the Jordan estate when Kwame was 7 and Adana was 4. She came home that first evening and made a special dinner, fried plantains and a goosey soup, the meal her mother made on good days. And she told her children, "We are going to be okay now." She had meant it. She had made it true. By the October she found the safe, Kwame was 18 and talking about studying engineering at a state university. He was the kind of young man who fixed things without being asked. The leaky tap, the broken blind, the neighbor's bicycle chain. He did it quietly, the way Celestine did her own work, without needing to be thanked. Adana was 15 and writing pieces for her school newspaper that made Celestine read them twice. Sharp, clear sentences that went straight to the heart of things. Her teacher had told Celestine at the last parents' evening, "Your daughter sees the world differently. It is a gift." Celestine had nodded and said thank you, and then sat in her car afterward and cried a little. The good kind of crying, the kind that feels like relief. These were the people she was protecting when she chose, that Tuesday, not to open the safe. Not just Michael Jordan's privacy, her own life, her children's stability, the 11 years of trust she had built one careful day at a time. She was not a woman who threw things away carelessly. Not time, not relationships. Not the quiet dignity of doing the right thing even when no one was looking. When that was her code, her mother's code before her, so she had taken the photograph and walked away. But here was the part she did not tell anyone. Not Kwame, not Adana, not the women she sat with at church on Sundays. It was not just the words, "Do not open," that stayed with her. It was the feeling underneath them. Because Celestine knew that feeling. She recognized it the way you recognize a face from a dream. Not clearly, not with words, but in the body, in the chest. She had a shoebox on the top shelf of her own closet. Inside it were 3 things: her mother's rosary, blue glass beads worn smooth from years of use, a letter to her ex-husband that she had started 4 times and never finished, and a photograph of a child she had lost before the child had a name. She had never shown that box to anyone. Sure, she had never opened it in front of another person. She had simply kept it. The way you keep things that are too important to display and too real to throw away. The way you keep things that are still alive inside you, even when you wish sometimes that they weren't. That was what the red tape said to her. That was the language she understood. Do not open, ever. It did not say, there is nothing here. It said, there is something here I am not ready to survive. And Celestine, who had her own box on her own shelf, understood that completely, which was exactly why she could not let it go. She lasted 6 more days before she made the call. 6 days of doing her work and driving home and making dinner and listening to her children talk about their lives. 6 days of telling herself it was not her place. On the 7th day, she picked up her phone. She did not call a journalist. She did not call a friend. She did not call anyone who would make it bigger than it needed to be. She called Philip Osei, the estate manager, a quiet and careful man she had worked alongside for 6 years, and she said 4 words of her own. I need to talk. Philip Osei arrived at the house the next morning at 9 o'clock sharp. He was never late. In 6 years of managing the estate, Celestine had never once seen him arrive flustered or rushed or anything other than completely composed. He was a compact man, short, neat, careful, who wore small wire-rimmed glasses and a gray sweater that looked like it had been ironed with the same devotion Celestine gave to her own uniform. He carried a leather folder. He always carried a leather folder, and even when there was nothing in it. He shook Celestine's hand at the door the way he always did, firmly, briefly, like he respected her time. And then he said, "Show me." So she did. They went upstairs together without speaking. The house felt different with 2 people in it, moving through it with purpose. Quieter somehow, more aware of itself. Celestine led him into the master bedroom, across the wide floor, past the stripped bed, and the curtains that held the gray November light. She opened the closet. She moved the hanging dress shirts to one side with both hands. Carefully, the way you move something that does not belong to you. The panel was still loose at the bottom. Philip crouched down. He was quiet for a moment, just looking. Then he leaned closer and read the tape on the front of the safe. His face did not change. He had the face of a man who had trained himself not to react too quickly to things. But Celestine noticed his jaw move once, just slightly, the way it does when you are absorbing something and trying not to show it. "How long has it been here, do you think?" he asked without looking up. "I don't know," she said. "The tape is old. See how it's yellowing at the edges? It's been there a long time." He nodded slowly. Then he saw it. The second piece of tape, smaller, pressed along the bottom edge of the safe door, folded in on itself like someone had changed their mind about leaving it and then left it anyway. He reached out a hand toward it, then stopped himself. He looked up at Celestine. "Did you touch this?" "Just the edge," she said. "Enough to read it." "What does it say?" she told him. And he was quiet for a moment. Then he stood up slowly and pressed his hands flat against his thighs, the way people do when they need to feel something solid. "Forgive me," he repeated, softly, like a question. "Yes," she said. He looked at the safe. She looked at the safe. The house around them was completely still, the way it gets in the late morning when no one is home, and the heat has not kicked on yet, and every surface is holding its breath. "We don't open it," Philip said. It was not a question. "No," Celestine agreed. "Of course not. We report it to the legal team. We document everything. We tell Mr. Jordan when he's back." "Yes." He looked at her. "You did the right thing calling me." She nodded. She did not say what she was thinking, which was, "I almost didn't. 1 hour I sat with it for 6 days and told myself it wasn't my place. I almost let it go." But she had not let it go. And standing here now, looking at the old black steel and the 2 strips of tape, she understood why. Because some things do not let you go either. Philip made the call to the estate attorneys that afternoon. Celestine was in the kitchen cleaning the refrigerator when she heard his voice from the study. Low, measured, professional. She could not hear the words, only the tone. "Calm," Steady. The way you speak when you are delivering information that matters and you do not want it distorted by the way you say it. He came to find her afterward. They've logged it, he said. Photographs on file. They'll notify Mr. Jordan through the appropriate channels. When does he come back? Friday. Celestine wrung out the cloth in her hand and draped it over the sink. 3 days. And until then? She asked. Until then, we say nothing to no one. That means no one, Celestine. Not family, not friends, not other staff. He said it without any edge in his voice, without any suggestion that he doubted her. He was simply being clear. I understand, she said. He nodded. He picked up his leather folder from the counter. He was almost at the door when he stopped. Celestine, he said without turning around. Yes? A pause, not long, but real. The second tape, the one that says, forgive me. He was quiet for a moment. So everyone, in your experience, and I know you've worked in a lot of houses, what do people mean when they write something like that? She thought about it honestly. She did not answer quickly. She looked at the window, at the November sky going white at the edges, at the bare tree in the yard standing the way bare trees stand in late autumn. Like they are not dead, just waiting. It means, she said slowly, that someone did something they could not undo, or didn't do something they should have, and they ran out of time to fix it, and so they wrote it down instead, because writing it down is the last thing you can do when doing is no longer an option. Philip was quiet. That's what I think, she said. He nodded once. He left. Celestine stood alone in the kitchen for a long time. Outside, a wind moved through the yard and bent the bare tree slowly to one side and then let it straighten again. She thought about James Jordan. She had never met him. She had only seen his photograph, the one Michael kept face down in the drawer. In the photo, James was laughing. His head was thrown back. His whole body was in it, the way some people laugh. The way people laugh when they are completely safe. She wondered what James had needed to be forgiven for. She wondered if Michael knew. She wondered if that was the whole point, that he didn't. Not yet. Not until Friday. Michael Jordan came home on a Thursday evening, 1 day earlier than expected. Celestine was still there. She had stayed late to finish polishing the hallway floors, a task she had added to her own list without being asked, and the way she sometimes did when she felt the house needed care. She heard the garage door. She heard his footsteps. She kept polishing. He came through the kitchen and stopped when he saw her. He set his bag down on the counter. He looked tired. Not the tired of sleep, but the tired of carrying things across long distances. He looked at her. Just looked. For a moment. And then he said, very quietly, the 4 words that told her he already knew. You found it. It was not a question. You found it. 2 words, not angry, not cold, just certain. The way you say something when you have been waiting for it to happen for so long that the happening itself is almost a relief. Celestine set down her polishing cloth. She straightened up slowly. Yes, sir, she said. I'm sorry. The panel in the closet had come loose. I wasn't looking for anything. I would never. He held up one hand, not unkindly. Just stop. The way you stop someone who is apologizing for something that does not require an apology. Don't be sorry, he said. His voice was quiet. Even. He looked past her for a moment, at the dark window above the sink, at the November night pressing against the glass. I think I always knew someone would find it eventually. He picked up his bag. Give me an hour, he said. He went upstairs. Celestine stood very still in the kitchen and listened to his footsteps above her, across the bedroom. The closet door opening, then nothing. Just the sound of a house that had stopped breathing. She waited. 1 hour passed. Then another. She finished the floors. She wiped down the counters. She put on her coat and sat at the kitchen table with her bag in her lap, not quite ready to leave. Not sure why. At 8:15, she heard him come back down. She stood up. He appeared in the kitchen doorway. He was still in his travel clothes. His eyes were red, not swollen, not dramatic, just the quiet red of someone who has been somewhere very private and come back changed by it. In his right hand, held loosely at his side like he was not sure what to do with it yet, was a small black cassette tape. He looked at her. She looked at the tape. Neither of them spoke for a moment. "Go home, Celestine," he said finally, gently. "It's late." She nodded. She picked up her bag. She walked to the door. She did not ask what was on it. He did not tell her. But she carried the image of it home with her. That small black rectangle held in a large hand, looking like the most important and most fragile thing in the world. Word travels in a house the way water travels through old walls, quietly, finding every crack. Celestine had told no one. Philip had told no one. The estate attorneys had logged the discovery with the kind of professional silence that was part of what they were paid for. But there were other people in that house. There was Rosa, who managed the kitchen and had been with the estate for 4 years. Rosa had not seen the safe. Rosa did not know what was in it. But Rosa had seen Michael Jordan come downstairs on a Thursday evening with red eyes and something small in his hand. And Rosa had seen Celestine leave shortly after with the careful, quiet face of a woman carrying something she would not put down. Rosa was not malicious. She was simply human. And humans, when they see something that looks like a story, find it very hard to hold it alone. She told her sister that night, just the shape of it. No details, no names for what was found. Just something happened at the house today. Something that made him cry. Something the housekeeper knows about. Her sister told a friend. The friend had 3,000 followers on a social media account where she posted neighborhood news and local gossip and, occasionally, things she probably should have verified before sharing with the world. The post went up at 11:17 that night. It said, "Sources close to the Jordan estate confirm something shocking was discovered at his home this week." MJ was seen visibly emotional. Story developing. By midnight it had 400 shares. By morning it had 1,200. By the time Celestine sat down at her kitchen table with her coffee at 6 a.m., it had been picked up by 2 celebrity gossip sites and was sitting in the notifications of every entertainment reporter in Chicago. She saw it on her phone. She set the phone face down on the table. She sat with her coffee and breathed slowly the way her mother had taught her. In through the nose, out through the mouth, until the feeling in your chest becomes something you can hold instead of something holding you. Then she picked the phone back up and called Philip. He answered on the first ring. "I've already seen it," he said. "I didn't say anything," she said. "I know." No hesitation, no doubt. I know it wasn't you." "Philip, it's already moving," he said. 7 calls this morning. I've given the same answer to all of them. There is nothing to report, and Mr. Jordan is fine." She pressed her fingers to her forehead. "Is he?" she asked. A pause, longer than she expected. "He asked for no calls today," Philip said. "He's in the study. He made 1 call last night. A long one. I don't know who to." Celestine thought about the cassette tape. Small, black, old. She thought about James Jordan laughing in a photograph with his whole body. She thought about the word on the hidden tape, "Forgive me," written in shaky handwriting by someone who had run out of time to say it out loud. "What do we do?" she asked. "We wait," Philip said. "We let him lead. Whatever he decides, we follow." She nodded, even though he could not see her. "And Celestine," he added just before he hung up, "whatever comes next, you handled this with dignity. I want you to know that." She did not answer right away. Outside her window, the sun was coming up gray and thin over the rooftops. A bus moved slowly down the street below. A child on the sidewalk walked to school with a backpack too big for his body, leaning forward to balance the weight. "Thank you, Philip," she said. She hung up. She looked at her phone, at the post, at the 1,200 shares and the comments filling up underneath it like water into a bowl. Curiosity, speculation, excitement, the breathless energy of people who smelled a story and wanted to be the first to swallow it whole. She thought, they do not know what they are circling. They think it is a scandal. Or it is not a scandal. It is a grief, a private, sacred, 26-year-old grief. And it was about to become everybody's business. Tessa Mbeki almost did not answer. The number was not in her contacts. It showed up as a string of digits she did not recognize. A 704 area code, which she knew was Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was 7:40 in the morning, which was early even for her. She was standing at her kitchen counter eating toast over the sink the way she always did when she was running late. Coat already on, bag already over her shoulder. She answered anyway. She almost always answered unknown numbers. That was the job. "Is this the journalist?" the voice said. Male, calm, unhurried. "The one who has been asking questions about the Michael Jordan story?" She set her toast down. "Anyway, I've made a few inquiries," she said carefully. "Who is this?" "Someone who was there," the voice said, "when it was made." Tessa pulled out her notebook from her bag. She uncapped her pen. "When what was made?" she asked. A pause, not evasive. More like the pause of someone choosing their words with real care. The way you choose them when they matter. "The tape," the voice said. The call lasted 43 minutes. Tessa stood at her kitchen counter for the first 10. Then she sat down on the floor with her back against the cabinet because her legs felt unreliable. She filled 6 pages of her notebook. She did not interrupt. She did not push. She simply listened, the way her first editor had taught her. Like every word is a thread, and your job is to follow it without pulling too hard or it snaps. The man told her this. In the autumn of 1992, James Jordan drove to a recording studio in Charlotte, North Carolina. Not a famous studio, a small one, rented by the hour, normally used by local musicians, cutting demo tracks on weekends. James had arranged it through a friend who knew the owner. He arrived alone. He sat down in front of a microphone. He asked for the engineer to start the tape and then leave the room. He talked for nearly 2 hours. He talked about his son, not the basketball player, not the icon, not the name that was already by 1992 becoming something larger than any single person could carry. He talked about Michael the way only a father can. From the beginning, from the very first moment. From the particular and private angle of a man who had been watching someone become themselves for 30 years and had never quite found the words to say what that watching had done to him. "Why then?" Tessa asked. "Why 1992? They were about to win the second championship. James was healthy. There was no reason to think. There was a boy," the voice said. Tessa's pen stopped moving. "A boy named Darius," the voice continued, 14 years old. James had been mentoring him through their church. The boy's father had died 6 months earlier. One afternoon, Darius sat on James's porch and asked him a question. "What question?" The man on the phone was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "He asked James what it felt like to watch your son become something great, whether it felt the same as before, or whether the son becomes like a stranger." Tessa wrote it down, word for word. "And James couldn't answer," the voice said. Not properly. The boy left, and James sat on that porch for a long time, and he realized there were things he felt about Michael, enormous things, that he had never said. Not once, not completely. He had thought them. He had felt them so hard they sometimes kept him awake at night. But he had never said them. So he recorded them, Tessa said softly. "He recorded them," the man confirmed. "And Michael never listened to it. Not until last week." The line was quiet for a moment, just the sound of 2 people sitting with the weight of that. 26 years of a father's voice waiting in a locked box for a son who was not ready to hear it. Tessa looked at her 6 pages of notes. She thought about her own father, a retired school teacher in Pretoria who called her every Sunday at noon and always opened with the same words, "Just checking you are still in the world." She thought about what it would mean to one day find something he had recorded for her. Something true and unguarded, set into a microphone in an empty room because he could not find another way to say it. She closed her eyes for just a second. Then she opened them and kept writing. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "After 26 years." The voice did not hesitate. "Because Michael listened to it," the man said. "And I know what it did to him. I could hear it in the one call he made that night. And I think the world deserves to understand what kind of man James Jordan was. Not the story they already know. Not the tragedy. The man underneath all of that." Tessa put her pen down. "Can I verify what you've told me? Some of it, not all of it. Not yet. I'll need more." "I know," the voice said. "That's why I'm calling you and not someone else, because I think you'll do it right." A pause. "There is someone who can give you the rest." the man said. Someone closer to the house than I am. Someone who found the safe and handled what she found with more grace than most people would have. Tessa sat up straighter. The housekeeper, she said. Her name is Celestine Adara, the voice said. The rest is up to you. The call ended. Tessa sat on her kitchen floor for a long time after that, her notebook open in her lap. 6 pages of handwriting that felt less like notes and more like the beginning of something she did not yet fully understand, but already knew she could not walk away from. She picked up her phone. She called her editor, Dorian Foster, and said the 7 words she had said only twice before in her career. I think I have something really real. Celestine's phone rang at 7:45 that evening. She was washing dishes. Adana was at the kitchen table doing homework, chewing the end of her pencil the way she had since she was 6 years old, a habit Celestine had given up trying to stop. Kwame had called earlier to say goodnight from his dorm. The apartment smelled of the pepper soup she had made for dinner. The television in the living room was on low. A nature documentary, something about oceans. We're the kind of program that fills a room with gentle sound without demanding anything from you. It was the most ordinary evening imaginable. Then her phone rang with an unknown number. She almost let it go to voicemail. She did not let it go to voicemail. Ms. Adora, the woman's voice said, my name is Tessa Mbeki. I'm a journalist based in Chicago. I'm not calling to hurt anyone. I'm calling because I believe you know a story that the world needs to hear, and I think you know how to tell it the right way. Celestine turned off the tap. She dried her hands slowly on the dish towel, one finger at a time, the way her mother used to do when she was thinking. How did you get this number? She asked. The same way I find most things, Tessa said. Why I ask the right questions to the right people. Celestine looked at Adana, who had not looked up from her homework. Call me tomorrow, Celestine said. I need to think. She hung up. She stood at the sink for a long moment, dish towel still in her hands, looking out the small window above it at the night sky over Highland Park. Orange at the edges from the streetlights, dark blue in the middle, one visible star. Who was that, Mama? Adana asked, still not looking up. Work, Celestine said, which was true, in its way. She did not sleep well. She lay in the dark and had the same conversation with herself she always had when a decision was sitting on her chest at midnight. The one where she listed everything she stood to lose and everything she stood to gain, and then realized, as she always did. On that neither list was the actual question. The actual question was simpler and harder than both. What is the right thing? She called Kwame at 11 o'clock. He answered immediately because she rarely called so late. Mama, you okay? I'm okay, she said. I just need your brain for a few minutes. She told him enough. The journalist, the call, the position she was in. She did not tell him about the safe in detail or the tape or the hidden message. She kept the edges blurred the way she had been trained by 11 years of discretion, but she told him the shape of the problem. Someone wanted to tell a story that was not fully hers to tell, and she had to decide what her part in it was. Kwame was quiet in the way that meant he was actually thinking, not just preparing to speak. Oh, what would make it the right thing? He asked finally. Talking to her. If something good came from it, Celestine said, if it wasn't just people wanting a piece of him, if it actually meant something. And the wrong thing, if it hurt him, if it took something private and made it into a headline. Kwame thought again. Then the question isn't whether to talk to her, he said. It's whether she's the kind of journalist who knows the difference. Celestine closed her eyes. Yes, she said quietly. That's exactly it. She called Tessa Mbeki back in the morning. She asked 3 questions before she agreed to meet. The first, what did Tessa want to write? Tessa said she wanted to write about what it means to leave something behind for someone you love when you cannot find the words while you are still alive. She said she wanted to write about James Jordan. Not the death, not the tragedy that the world already knew, but the man who sat in a recording studio and talked to his son for 2 hours because a fatherless boy had asked him a question he could not answer out loud. The second question, who would it help? Tessa was quiet for a moment. Then she said, anyone who has ever had something they needed to say to someone and ran out of time to say it, which is almost everyone, which is most of the world. The third question was the one that mattered most. Had Tessa ever had a story she decided not to publish? Not because she was told not to, but because she chose not to. Another pause. Longer. Yes, Tessa said. Twice. Once when publishing would have exposed a family that had not asked to be part of the news. Once when the person at the center of the story asked me himself not to run it and gave me a reason I believed. What did you do? I killed the story, both times. Did it cost you? Professionally, a little. Personally, a breath. No, it didn't cost me anything I wanted to keep. Celestine looked at the window, at the morning coming in clean and pale over the rooftops. She thought about what it means to carry something and put it down. She thought about her own shoebox on the top shelf. She thought about her mother ironing uniforms at 5 in the morning so 4 children could walk into the world looking like they belonged there. She thought about Michael Jordan holding a small black cassette tape at his side like it was the heaviest thing he had ever carried. All right, she said, I'll meet you. And they met at a coffee shop in Evanston 2 days later. Tessa was younger than Celestine had expected. Early 30s, natural hair, a half-full notebook already open on the table when Celestine arrived, which told her something. This woman had been preparing, had been thinking, had come ready to listen and not just to extract. They talked for 3 hours. Celestine was careful. She was measured. She told Tessa what she had seen and what she had done and what Michael had said in the hallway. She did not tell her about the second piece of tape. The hidden one, the folded over one with the 2 shaky words. That, she had decided, belonged to Michael alone. Some things you protect even when you are trying to help. But she told Tessa enough. Enough for the shape of something true to emerge. Not scandal, not gossip, not a headline designed to make people click and move on. Something slower and realer than that. A father who loved his son so completely that he had to rent a room and sit in front of a microphone to find the edges of it. A son who locked that love in a safe because he was not yet strong enough to live inside it. And a woman who found it and held it gently. The way you hold something that is not yours but that needs to be held. Why didn't he give the tape to Michael directly? Tessa asked. While he was still alive? Celestine wrapped both hands around her coffee cup. She thought about it honestly. Because, she said slowly, some things we most need to say are also the things we are most afraid to be heard saying. While we're alive, we can explain ourselves. We can soften the words. We can take them back if we see they are landing wrong. But on a tape, recorded in an empty room, it is just the truth, with nowhere to hide. Tessa stopped writing. She looked at Celestine for a long moment. That's the story, she said quietly. That's the real one. Celestine nodded. Don't make it about the safe, she said. Don't make it about the tape. Make it about what it means to love someone so much you have to find a different container for it. And what it means when they finally find it, even 26 years too late. Tessa closed her notebook. Can I tell you something? She said. Yes. I think you are the most important person in this story, not because of what you found. She paused. Because of how you decided to hold it. Celestine shook her head. I'm not part of the story, she said. And Tessa looked at her steadily. Everyone who handles the truth with care, she said, is part of the story. Here is what was on the tape. Not rumor, not reconstruction, not the version that the gossip sites invented in the 48 hours before the real story ran. What follows is what came out through Tessa Mbeki's careful, months-long reporting, assembled from her source, from documentation the estate eventually released, and from 2 people who had been trusted with pieces of it and chose in the end to trust the world with the rest. The tape began with silence. 12 full seconds of it, the kind that sits in a room after a door closes and before anything new begins. The kind that a man makes when he has been working up to something for a long time, and now that the moment is here, he needs one more breath before he steps into it. Then James Jordan's voice, warm, unhurried, a little rough at the edges the way voices get when a man has spent his life outdoors and laughing. The voice of someone sitting in a chair he feels completely comfortable in, talking to someone he loves without reservation or performance. Michael, if you're hearing this, then I guess I'm gone, or maybe I'm not, and you found it too early. Either way, I'm going to talk to you like I'm gone, because that is the only way I know how to be completely honest with you. A small pause, then. I have never told you properly what it has done to me, being your father. I'm going to try to do that now. He started at the very beginning, not with basketball, not with the famous stories that had already been told 100 times in 100 articles. He started with the first night Michael came home from the hospital. James holding him on the couch while his wife slept, the apartment quiet, the baby impossibly small and impossibly real. And James feeling, for the first time in his adult life, genuinely bone-deep afraid. Not of anything specific, of everything, of the size of what he was now responsible for, of how fast it would go, of all the ways a person could love something this completely and still manage to get it wrong. He talked about the year Michael was cut from the varsity basketball team, but not the way the story was usually told. Not the comeback, not the famous lesson about resilience that coaches now put on motivational posters. He talked about the night before, the night James found Michael alone in the backyard in the dark, shooting baskets in the cold. He had stood at the kitchen window and watched his son shoot the same shot over and over for 2 hours, his hand pressed flat against the cold glass, his breath fogging it from the inside. I wanted to go out, James said on the tape. I wanted to tell you it didn't matter, that there were other things, other ways, but I stayed at the window, because I could see something in you that I did not want to interrupt. I could see that this was the moment you were deciding who you were going to be, and a father does not interrupt that moment. He stands at the window, he watches. He prays he raised someone strong enough to make the right decision alone in the dark. He paused. You did, he said. You always did. He talked about the championships. The first one, 1991. The one they were weeks away from winning when James sat down in front of the microphone. I'm going to tell you something embarrassing, James said on the tape. I cried 3 times that night. Once when the buzzer went. Once when you held the trophy up and I saw your face. And I recognized it. I knew that face. I knew it from when you were 7 years old and you beat your cousin at checkers for the first time, and you looked up at me to make sure I had seen that same face. 26 years old and still that same face looking for the same thing. A breath. And the third time I cried was later, alone, in the hotel bathroom. Because I was so proud of you that I did not know what to do with it. And I was also terrified. Terrified that your life had become something I could no longer fully follow you into. That the boy I raised had gone somewhere I could not go with him. His voice steadied. I sat on the bathroom floor and I told myself, you are still his father. That does not change because the world got bigger. You are still the man he looked up at. That is yours. Nobody can take that. He stopped for a moment. When he came back, something in him had settled. I needed to say that out loud, he said, even if only to this empty room. He talked about mistakes, not the public ones, the private ones. The years when he had pushed, when he should have waited. When he had spoken, when he should have listened. When his own pride had worn Michael's face, and he had not always noticed the difference in time to correct it. I put things on you, James said quietly, that I should have kept to myself. I know that. I am not asking you to forgive me for it right now. I am just telling you I know, because a man should name his wrongs out loud at least once, even if no one is there to hear it. He talked about his own father, a man who had come from nothing and taught James that nothing was not the same as nowhere, that you could always begin again, that the direction mattered more than the ground you started on. He said he had tried to pass that on. He hoped it had landed the way he meant it. He talked about Michael's children, the ones James hoped would exist by the time Michael finally heard this. He could not know their names, and he did not know how many, but he talked to them anyway, through the tape, through Michael, across time. Tell them, James said, that their grandfather loved them before he knew them. That is possible. That is real. Love does not need an introduction to be true. And then near the end, after almost 2 hours of honesty and memory and the particular courage it takes to say the most important things into an empty room, James Jordan said the thing that the world would carry the longest. He said it simply, quietly, like a man who had finally found the exact right words after a very long search through all the wrong ones. I need to ask you something, not as a demand, As a request from a man who loves you more than language was built to carry. He paused. Don't disappear, he said, from the people who love you the small way. Not the big famous way that the whole world sees. The small way, the kitchen at 2 a.m. way, the phone call about nothing way, the way that never makes the news and never will. Don't let what you became make what you are feel like something to be embarrassed by or hidden away. His voice dropped lower, slower. The boy who shot baskets alone in the backyard in the dark, he is still in there. He is the best thing I ever helped bring into this world. Don't lose him to the bright lights. Don't give him to the crowd. Keep him somewhere safe. Keep him for the people who loved him before the world knew his name. A long silence. That is the promise I am asking for, he said. Just stay the boy, in whatever way you still can, for as long as you can manage it. And then, softer than anything that had come before. So soft that Tessa's source said the sound engineer had to turn up the levels afterward just to be sure they had heard it correctly. I love you, Michael. I am so proud of you that it breaks me open every single day. Every day of your life I have walked around cracked open by it. And wherever I end up, here or somewhere further along, I am watching you, and I am telling everyone who will listen. The tape ended. Tessa had not heard it herself, but she had written down every word her source described. She had checked them 3 times. She had read them aloud once in her empty apartment at midnight to make sure they rang true. She cried twice while she was writing it. She was not ashamed of that. Because when she finished and read the whole thing from the beginning, she understood something she had not expected when the unknown number rang 3 months before at 7:40 in the morning. This was not Michael Jordan's story. Not really. Not at its center. It was every child's story, every parent's. It was the story of every person who ever swallowed the most important thing they felt because they could not find a way to make it fit through the door of an ordinary conversation. James Jordan had found a way. A small room, a microphone, 2 hours of honesty in the dark, and a son who needed 26 years to be strong enough to receive it. Celestine had been right from the very beginning. This was not a scandal. It never had been. It was a love story, one of the oldest and most ordinary kinds there is. A father, be it a son, and all the enormous things that go unsaid between them until someone finally finds the courage to say them into the silence and trust that someday, somehow, the right ears will be ready to hear. The article ran on a Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. By 8, it had 4 million views. By noon, it had 11 million. By the time Tessa Mbeki sat down at her desk that afternoon, with a cold cup of coffee and a phone that had not stopped buzzing since dawn, it had been shared by people in 43 countries, translated informally into 9 languages by readers who could not wait for an official version, printed out and left on kitchen tables, read aloud over the phone to elderly parents, sent in text messages with no words attached, just the link, because sometimes a link says what a person cannot. The comments sections, usually the ugliest part of the internet, the place where nuance goes to die, were something Tessa had never seen before and would spend the rest of her career trying to describe accurately to people who had not been there to witness it. They were full of children talking about their fathers, full of fathers talking about their children, full of people saying, I have never told anyone this, full of people saying, I am calling my mother today, full of people saying, I had a tape too. Mine was a letter. Mine was a voicemail I saved for 6 years. Mine was a note tucked inside a coat pocket that I found 2 winters after she was gone. The world had recognized itself in the story. That was what Tessa had hoped for and had not been sure she could achieve. She sat at her desk and read the comments for an hour and cried for the last 20 minutes of that hour, and then blew her nose and went back to work because there was more coming. She could feel it. The story was not finished. She was right. 3 days after the article ran, her phone rang. The same 704 area code. The same calm voice. I want to come forward, the voice said. Tessa sat up straight. You don't have to. You're fully protected. Nothing you told me. I know, the voice said. That isn't why. Then why? A pause, the kind that means someone is deciding how to say something they have already decided to say. Because the story is not complete, the voice said. There is something I held back, not to deceive you. I held it back because I was not sure it was mine to give. But I have been reading the comments. I have been reading what people are saying. And I think it needs to be complete for it to mean what it should mean. Tessa picked up her pen. What did you hold back? She asked. The voice said, the reason he made the tape when he did. Tessa stopped writing. I thought it was because of the championship, she said carefully, because they were about to win and he wanted to. No, the voice said. That is when he made it, not why. A breath. He made it because of a boy. The voice told her the rest of it. In the spring of 1992, 6 months before James Jordan drove to the recording studio in Charlotte, he had begun mentoring a boy through his church. The boy's name was Darius. He was 14 years old. His father had died of a heart attack the previous November, sudden and without warning, on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday morning, leaving behind a wife and 3 children who had gone to bed the night before, in a world that still had him in it. James had known the family through the church. He started stopping by, bringing food first, then just coming, sitting on the porch, talking or not talking, depending on what the day needed. One afternoon in late summer, Darius sat beside him on the porch steps and asked a question that came out of nowhere and landed everywhere. Mr. James, and the boy said, what does it feel like, watching your son become something great? Does it feel the same as before? Or does he start to feel like a stranger? James was quiet for a long time. He gave the boy an answer, the one Tessa's source had already shared with her weeks before, that it felt like finding someone you always knew was there. But what he had not told Tessa was what happened after the boy went home. James sat on that porch alone as the evening came in and thought about the question for a very long time. And he realized that the honest answer was larger than what he had given, that there were things he felt about Michael, things he had been feeling for 30 years, that he had never once said out loud, not properly, not completely, not in a way that did justice to the size of them. And he thought, what if I run out of time? What if the boy on this porch is right to be afraid of that? What if the people we love most are the ones we tell the least? Because we think we have more time, because we assume they already know, because the words are so large they never quite make it out of our mouths? So he rented the studio, and he talked, for nearly 2 hours, into a tape he addressed to his son, that he then sealed in a safe, that he then covered in red tape and wrote 4 words on, and which sat untouched for 26 years until a woman named Celestine Adara crouched down in a closet on a cold Tuesday morning in October and saw the gap in the baseboard trim. Who are you? Tessa asked the voice. I need to know now. If you are coming forward, I need your name. A pause long enough that she thought she had lost him. Then, my name is Darius Okonkwo, the voice said. I am 40 years old. I live in Durham, North Carolina. I have a wife and 3 daughters. And I run a mentorship program for boys who have lost their fathers. Tessa's pen was not moving. She did not need it to move. She was not going to forget a single word of this. I found out about the tape the same way the rest of the world did, Darius said, reading your article on a Wednesday morning at my desk, coffee in hand. And I sat there and I thought, I started this. A question I asked on a porch when I was 14 years old. A question I barely remember asking. Started all of this. His voice was steady, but underneath it, something was moving. I spent 26 years not knowing what that question set in motion, he said. I think it is time I knew. And I think the world should know too, because I want every fatherless boy who reads this story to understand something. What? Tessa asked softly. That their questions matter, Darius said, even when they don't know they're asking them. Even when they're just sitting on a porch talking to someone who is kind enough to listen. A question from a child who has nothing can move something in a great man that reaches the whole world. He paused. That boy on the porch deserves to be part of this story. Tessa looked at her notebook, at 6 pages from 3 months ago, at a story that was not finished after all. I'll write the rest, she said. I know you will, Darius said. That's why I called you. Tessa's second article ran on a Tuesday. She had taken 9 days to write it. Not because it was long, it was actually shorter than the first one, but because she rewrote the opening 11 times. And because she read every line out loud to herself before she let it stay. Because she sent a draft to Darius Okonkwo and asked him to tell her honestly if she had gotten it right. Not just the facts, but the feeling underneath the facts. He called her after he read it. He did not say anything for a moment. Then he said, "Yes, that's it. That's exactly it." She filed it at 10 o'clock on a Monday night. She went to bed. She set her alarm for 6. She slept 4 hours. When she woke up and looked at her phone, the article had already been shared 2 million times. By noon, it had passed the first article. By the end of the week, Tessa Mbeki, who had spent 8 years writing careful, serious human interest stories for an outlet that most people in Chicago had heard of, but few outside of it had read, was being called by television producers, podcast hosts, and 3 of the largest newspapers in the country. She turned most of them down. She had a story to finish protecting. What the second article did that the first had not was give people a beginning. The first article had given them James Jordan's voice, his love, his promise, the enormous, private, tender heart of a man the world thought it already knew. The second article gave them Darius, a 14-year-old boy on a porch with no father and one question. A question asked without knowing what it would set in motion. Without knowing that the man sitting beside him would drive to a recording studio the following autumn and talk for 2 hours because of it. Without knowing that those 2 hours would sit in a locked safe for 26 years. Without knowing that a housekeeper named Celestine would one day crouch down in a closet and see a gap in a baseboard and change the direction of her own quiet life. Darius had not known any of it. For 26 years, he had simply been a man, a husband, a father of 3 daughters, a person who had lost his own father too young and decided, not dramatically, not with a speech or a plan, but quietly and practically, that he would spend his life making sure other boys did not have to carry that particular weight entirely alone. His mentorship program was called Groundwork. It operated out of a converted warehouse space in Durham, North Carolina. It had been running for 14 years. It served 60 boys a year, middle school and high school, mostly from the east side of the city where the schools were underfunded and the streets were loud and the men who were supposed to stay had often left for reasons that were complicated and painful and not always their fault. The program did practical things, tutoring, job shadowing, Saturday workshops on money and cooking and how to fix things that break. But the most important thing it did, the thing Darius had built it around from the very first day, was simpler than any of that. It gave boys a place to ask questions. Any questions. Big ones, small ones. The ones that felt too embarrassing to ask a teacher. And the ones that felt too heavy to ask a mother who was already carrying everything else. The ones that arrived at 2 in the morning and had nowhere to go. Darius believed, because a man named James Jordan had once shown him, that being asked a real question by a young person was not a burden, it was an honor. And answering honestly, even imperfectly, even without having all the words, was one of the most important things an older person could do. After the second article ran, the Groundwork website crashed inside of an hour. The donation page, which had previously handled a modest trickle of contributions from local churches and community supporters, received $9,000 in the first 2 hours, then $43,000 by midnight. By the end of the first week, donations had reached $260,000. Darius called Tessa on a Friday evening. His voice was not steady. "I don't know what to do with this," he said. "Yes, you do," she said. "You do more of what you've already been doing. It's too much." "It is exactly enough," she said firmly. "It is 26 years of something finally landing where it was always supposed to go." He was quiet for a long moment. "He changed everything," Darius said. "James Jordan, with one afternoon on a porch, with one decision to listen to a boy who had nothing to offer him except a question. He changed everything." "You changed everything," Tessa said. "He just knew how to listen." Neither of them spoke for a moment. Outside Tessa's window, Chicago was doing what it always did. Moving, loud, indifferent, alive. She looked at the city and felt something she could not name but recognized. The feeling of a story that has gone where it needed to go. 3 weeks after the second article ran, Celestine's phone lit up with a number she recognized immediately. She was sitting at her kitchen table on a Sunday morning, church clothes on, coffee going cold beside her. Adana still asleep. The apartment quiet and warm and smelling of the candles she lit on Sunday mornings. Vanilla and something woody, a scent she had burned every Sunday since her mother died, because her mother had burned the same one. She answered on the second ring. "Mr. Jordan." "Celestine." His voice was steady, warmer than she had heard it since before the story broke. "How are you holding up?" "I'm well," she said. "How are you?" "I'm okay," he said. And then, after a pause, "More okay than I've been in a long time," which is strange to say, given everything. She waited. "I know you didn't go to the press," he said. "I want you to know that I know that. It was never a question in my mind." "Thank you," she said quietly. "Don't thank me," he said. "You protected something that didn't belong to either of us. You treated it with more care than it had any right to expect." His voice shifted slightly, not breaking, but moving close to something. "My father would have liked you. He had a gift for recognizing people who do the right thing without needing an audience for it." Celestine pressed her hand flat on the table. "He sounds like someone worth knowing," she said. "He was," Michael said. "He really was." A silence settled between them, not uncomfortable. The kind that forms between people who have been through something together without ever being in the same room. "Celestine," he said at last. "Yes, sir." "When you found the safe, and you saw those words, what made you do the right thing? A lot of people wouldn't have. You could have opened it. Nobody would have known." She thought about it the way she always thought about real questions, fully without rushing. "Because finding something," she said, "doesn't make it yours. The finding is just an accident. What you do after the finding, that's the choice. That's the part that belongs to you." He was quiet. "My father said something like that once," he said. "Not those words, but that idea." "Then maybe," Celestine said gently, "you were listening to him longer than you knew." The line was very still for a moment. And then Michael Jordan laughed. A real one, not polished, not public, the kind that comes from somewhere low and honest and catches a person off guard. "Maybe," he said, "maybe I was." 6 months after the story ran, Tessa Mbeki won a journalism award. She almost did not go to the ceremony, not out of false modesty. She was genuinely proud of the work. But there was something about walking into a room full of applause for a story that had never felt like hers, that had always felt like it belonged to the people inside it, that made her uncomfortable in a way she could not fully explain. Her editor Dorianne called her the morning of the ceremony and said, "You're going. Put on something nice. Sit in the chair. Say thank you. Then go home." So she went. She sat in the chair. She said thank you. She gave a short speech. Why? She talked about what it means to hold a story that belongs to other people, the weight of that trust, the responsibility of it. She talked about Celestine without naming her. She talked about Darius. She talked about James Jordan, not the famous father, not the man the headlines had reduced to a single tragedy, but the man who sat alone in a recording studio and spoke honestly into silence because a boy on a porch had asked him a question he could not answer any other way. At the end, she said this: "The story I want to leave you with tonight is not about Michael Jordan. He is in it. He matters to it. But the story, at its very center, is about what we leave behind when we love someone and cannot find the words in time. It is about a safe with 'Do not open' written on it in red tape. Which is, if you read it correctly, its own kind of love letter. Because what those 4 words said was simply this: I am not ready for this to matter yet. And the miracle is that when he was finally ready, 26 years later, it still did. The love had waited. It had not gone anywhere. Love does not expire. It just waits in the dark for someone strong enough to open the door." She paused. "Leave the tapes," she said. "Find the words. Call your people." The room was very quiet. Then it was not. Celestine went to Lagos that summer. It was her first trip back in 11 years. She took Kwame and Adana. They stayed for 3 weeks in her aunt's house, the same one she had left from at 19 with a broken suitcase and a belt, and a letter from an uncle who had promised her a couch. And the house was smaller than she remembered. The city was louder. The food was exactly right. They visited her mother's grave on the third day. Celestine brought flowers, yellow and white, the colors Nena had always kept in the house. She stood at the grave for a long time, not crying, just present, just there in the way you try to be when presence is the only thing you have left to offer. Adana stood beside her without speaking, which was unusual for Adana. She reached out and took her mother's hand and held it. That was enough. That evening they sat on the aunt's porch as the Lagos dusk came in gold and orange, and the city moved around them the way it always had, fast and loud and completely alive. And Kwame turned to Celestine and said, "Tell me about her, everything, not the summary version, everything." So she did. Or she talked for 2 hours, about Nena's coal iron and the 4 school uniforms and the way she laughed with her whole body and the way she prayed, short and direct, like she was talking to someone she knew well and trusted completely. About the hard years and the years that were harder, about the things her mother had carried without complaint and the things she had said out loud and the things she had kept to herself for reasons Celestine was only now, at 45, beginning to fully understand. When she finished, Kwame was quiet for a moment. Then he took out his phone. "Next time," he said, "we record it." Celestine looked at him. "So I have it," he said simply. "So Adana has it. So whoever comes after us has it." She thought about James Jordan in a recording studio. She thought about red tape and black steel and 26 years of silence. She thought about a boy named Darius asking a question on a porch that he barely remembered asking. She thought about a woman named Celestine Adara crouching in a closet on a cold Tuesday morning and seeing a gap in the baseboard trim. She took Kwame's phone. She pressed record. "Start over," he said, "from the very beginning. Your great-grandmother," Celestine said, "was born in a village so small it did not appear on any map." And she began. Darius Okonkwo's program by the end of that year was serving 140 boys. He hired 2 new counselors. He expanded the Saturday workshops. He opened a second room in the warehouse, a reading room, quiet and warm, now with second-hand armchairs and good light and a shelf of books chosen personally by Darius because they were the books that had kept him company in the year after his father died. He named the main room the James Room. On the wall in large hand-painted letters were the words James Jordan had said to a 14-year-old boy on a porch in 1992. The words that Darius had remembered all his life without knowing why they had stayed with him. It doesn't feel like a stranger. It feels like finding someone you always knew was there. And now, the thing the story was always walking toward, the thing held back, the thing that waited at the bottom of the tape the way the most important things always wait, patient, quiet, certain that the right moment will come. At the very end of the recording, after nearly 2 hours of love and memory and honesty and the promise, James Jordan said one more thing. His voice changed when he said it, became quieter, more careful. The voice of a man who has been brave for a long time and is about to be brave one more time in a different way. "Michael, there is something I have to tell you, something no one else knows. I am telling you now because this tape is the only place I have ever been able to say the things I most need to say. And this is the thing I most need to say." A long breath. "There is a boy. He carries our name. You do not know him. He is the son of my brother's daughter, your cousin, who left when the boy was 2 years old. I have been sending money every month to a neighbor of ours in North Carolina, a good woman, a church woman, who took him in and raised him as her own. He is 13 years old. He does not know who his family is. He does not know about you. He does not know about any of us." Silence. "His name is Elias Jordan." The words sat in the empty recording studio like something solid. "I am not asking you to do anything. I am not putting a weight on you that you did not choose. But he exists, and he deserves to be known by someone who shares his blood. And I think, if you ever choose it, you could be the kind of presence in his life that I tried to be in yours." A pause so long it felt like a held breath. "The choice is completely yours. It always will be. But I needed you to know he was there, because a boy should not grow up in the world thinking he is standing alone when he is not." Then quieter still, "I love you, both of you, even though one of you does not know it yet." The tape ended. Elias Jordan was 39 years old. He was a high school basketball coach in Durham, North Carolina. He had played college ball 2 good years before a knee gave out. He had built a quiet, full life afterward. A wife named Saoirse who taught elementary school. 3 daughters, 9, 7, and 4. A house with a yard. A team that believed in him. A community that knew his name. He had grown up not knowing his family. He had made peace with that the hard way and the slow way. The way you make peace with things that do not give you another option. He had built something beautiful in the space the not knowing had left. He found out the same way the rest of the world did. A Tuesday morning, his desk at the school, coffee going cold. His wife texting him a link with no words, just the link, because there were no words for it. He read the article. He sat completely still for a very long time. Then he stood up and walked to the gym and stood in the doorway looking at the empty court. The squeaky floors, the faded 3-point line, the banner his team had won 2 seasons ago hanging crooked from the far wall. And he thought about a man he had never met, who had known he existed and had loved him anyway. Before the introduction, before the name, before the meeting that had not happened yet. He drove home. His daughters were at school. Saoirse was in the kitchen when he walked in. She looked at his face and put down what she was holding. "Elias," she said. "I need to tell you something," he said, "about who we are." She came to him. She took both his hands. "Tell me," she said. He did. 2 days later, Michael Jordan called. The call lasted 3 hours. Neither of them has spoken publicly about what was said in that call. They have been asked, many times by many people. They have both declined, politely and consistently, and in exactly the same words, which tells you that they agreed on this together. Some conversations belong only to the people in them, but this much is known. After the call, Elias Jordan drove to his school. He walked into the gym. His team was warming up for afternoon practice. 17 teenagers in various states of readiness, bouncing balls, talking too loud, doing the things teenagers do when they think no one important is watching. He blew his whistle. They gathered around him. When he looked at them for a moment, these boys, these loud and half-formed and entirely alive boys, and he said, "I want to tell you something before we start today." They waited. "Somebody I never met loved me before he knew me," Elias said. "I found out yesterday, and it changed the way I see everything." The gym was quiet. "That is what you are capable of," he said. "Every single one of you. You can love something into existence before it arrives. You can leave something behind that finds the right person 26 years later and changes their whole life." He bounced the ball once on the floor. Caught it. "Now let's go to work." They went to work. Outside the gym windows, Durham was doing what it always did. Moving, breathing, going about the business of being alive. The afternoon light came through the high windows and fell across the court in long gold rectangles, and the sneakers squeaked and the ball moved through the air with that particular sound. Clean, round, certain. That is the same everywhere it is heard, in backyards and arenas and school gyms, in cities the world has never heard of. The same sound, in every kind of dark, waiting for someone strong enough to keep shooting. A maid discovered a locked safe in Michael Jordan's bedroom. A story about what we leave behind and who finds it. About the words we almost said and the ones we finally did. About fatherless boys on porches asking the right questions. About women in gray uniforms who handle the truth with care. About tapes and safes and love that does not expire. About a ball moving through the air with that particular sound. Clean, round, certain, that some people leave behind for the rest of us to hear. When a housekeeper walked into Michael Jordan's bedroom on a cold Tuesday morning in October, she was not looking for anything unusual. She had a list of chores, a thermos of coffee, 11 years of experience keeping this house exactly the way it needed to be kept. She was invisible. She was trusted. She was just doing her job. But then she moved a row of hanging shirts to the side in the back of the closet, and she saw something that stopped her completely. A safe, black steel, bolted into the wall behind a panel that had always looked like it was just part of the house. A safe that had been hidden there for so long that the tape across the front had started to yellow at the edges. And on that tape, written in heavy black marker, In handwriting she recognized immediately as Michael Jordan's own. 4 words: do not open, ever. She did not open it. She did not touch it. She stood there with her hand pressed flat against her chest and her heart beating loud in that quiet room. And she took one photograph. Then she walked downstairs and finished her shift like nothing had happened. But something had happened. Something that would eventually travel around the world. Something that would make grown men call their fathers. Make daughters dig out old voicemails they had saved for years but never deleted. Make people print out an article and leave it on kitchen tables for their families to read. Because what was inside that safe was not money. It was not a secret scandal. It was not what anyone, not the gossip sites, not the reporters, not the millions of people who would eventually share the story, expected it to be. Inside that safe was a small black cassette tape, and on the front of the safe, hidden underneath the red tape with "Do Not Open" written on it, pressed down and folded over like someone had changed their mind about leaving it and then left it anyway. 2 more words in smaller handwriting, in a shakier hand. Forgive me. Forgive me. Who wrote that? Who was it written to? And what was on that tape that Michael Jordan had locked away and never once listened to in 26 years? And when he finally did listen, when he finally sat alone in that room and heard what was on it, why did he come back downstairs with red eyes and a look on his face like a man who had just set down the heaviest thing he had ever carried? What did that tape say? Whose voice was on it? And why, when the truth finally came out, did it make the entire world stop? Stay with us, because the answer is not what you think. And when you hear it, all of it, from the very beginning, every piece of it, it is going to change the way you think about the people you love and the things you leave behind for them. This is the story of a locked safe, a cassette tape, and a kind of love so large it could not fit into any ordinary conversation. This is where it begins, and that is where we leave you today. A safe in a closet, a tape no one was supposed to find, a love so large it waited 26 years in the dark for the right moment to finally be heard. If this story moved you the way it moved us, drop a comment below and tell us where in the world you are watching from right now. We have people joining us from so many different countries, and every single time we read those comments, it reminds us that stories like this one, stories about love and loss and the things we leave behind, connect all of us. No matter where we come from, if this video touched your heart, hit that like button. It takes 1 second and it helps this story reach someone who might really need to hear it today. And if you believe that kindness is worth spreading, subscribe to this channel. That is all we are trying to do here. One story at a time, one person at a time. Now click on the video on your screen right now. There is another story waiting for you, and something tells us you are not done yet. We will see you there.